Good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the Cook County Board of Commissioners regular meeting today, Tuesday, October 8th. And if we'd please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So as we look at today's agenda, are there any adjustments or changes to the agenda? Any adjustments or changes? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda as written.
Also move.
Thank you, Commissioner White. Is there support?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. We have a motion and support. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. To begin today, we want to have a brief recognition of Indigenous Peoples Day, which is next Monday. Next Monday, October 14th, our community will observe Indigenous Peoples Day, a day established to honor the rich cultures, history, and contributions of Indigenous people across our nation and continent. The day serves as a reminder of the resilience and strength of our Indigenous communities, including the Grand Portage Band of Lake Superior, Chippewa. The Grand Portage Band, rooted in rich heritage of the Anishinaabe people, embodies the spirit of perseverance and connection to the land. For centuries, they have thrived in the vibrant landscapes of northeastern Minnesota, cultivating deep relationships with our natural world. Their traditions, languages, and customs are woven into the very fabric of Cook County, the entire Arrowhead region, and beyond, enriching our cultural tapestry. Indigenous Peoples Day is not only a celebration of these contributions, but also an opportunity to reflect on the historical injustices faced by Indigenous communities. It's a moment to acknowledge the impact of colonization, including the loss of land, culture, and language. By recognizing the day, we commit to understanding these histories and working towards reconciliation and justice. We honor the Grand Portage Band's achievements in cultural preservation, environmental stewardship, and community resilience. The band plays a vital role in safeguarding our natural resources here in our region and advocating for sustainable practices that honor traditional knowledge and promote ecological balance. As we observe Indigenous Peoples Day next Monday, let us embrace the opportunity to learn from Indigenous voices and perspectives. By engaging with the histories and stories of the Grand Portage Band and other Indigenous people, we deepen our understanding of their experiences and the ongoing challenges faced. Whether through art, music, storytelling, literature, or community gatherings, every effort to amplify Indigenous voices contributes to a broader understanding and respect for their heritage. And together we can work toward a broad understanding and respect for that heritage. Together, we work towards a future that honors all Indigenous people, promotes their rights, and fosters a deeper connection to the land we share. By embracing the day, we take steps towards healing and justice for Indigenous communities, ensuring their stories and cultures will continue to thrive for generations to come. At this point, we'll move on to our public comment period. Are there any citizens that this morning wish to appear before the county board? Are there any remarks or emails that have been received by commissioners to read? Okay, with that, we'll close our public comment period and move on to our consent agenda. Are there any items that a commissioner wishes to pull? Any items a commissioner wishes to pull? If not, I'd accept a motion to approve our consent agenda as written.
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. Is there support?
Support.
Thank you, Commissioner Storley. We have a motion and support. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We'll move on now at this time to item 5, Human Resources, and we see that Allison Plummer, Director of Human Resources, is with us this morning. Good morning, Allison.
Good morning.
So the first item that Allison will be addressing this morning is an update to our county travel policy.
Yes. So some background on our current county travel policy. This was revamped, re-updated in 2022 to reflect the change going from our previous reimbursement rates to using the GSA rate, depending on the location where individuals were traveling to for work. Back in, it was spring, early summer, I received some communication from Public Health Human Services about wanting to present some proposed revisions to the travel policy, and more specifically around meal reimbursement, as the language that had been included in that 2022 update was fairly unclear in a sense, and could be very much open to interpretation. And they were wanting to provide some revisions to that language that provided more clarity and consistency across all of the departments and individuals' fiscal staff in 3 areas of the county that process the reimbursements, so everyone was acting in the same manner. And then the reimbursements were processed fairly, thinking equity across the organization. So what we did is we brought those proposed revisions initially to the July Personnel Committee just for that initial presentation. What are your thoughts? Is this something that we want to proceed with? From that meeting, it was determined that having kind of a more focused meeting with those individuals involved with reimbursement to discuss the changes would be the appropriate next step. So in late July, fiscal staff from Public Health Human Services, the Auditor's Office, the Highway Department, and myself to help facilitate the conversation. We all met to discuss the proposed changes, maybe even more further changes that everyone would agree upon. And one of the big things to note is in that discussion, it became clear that the 3 fiscal staff across those 3 organizations or the 3 departments that process reimbursements were interpreting the current language, even for as unclear that it might have been, they were actually interpreting it fairly similarly in their processing. So it was the goal of that meeting then to modify the language to reflect the current practices that they were already understanding was the way to process those reimbursements. So brought those changes back to the August, trying to get all my my months correct here, the August Personnel Committee meeting. There was discussion there and a couple of other things that we wanted to bring back to that group and myself to just further say, do we want these updates included? Brought it back again for a final review to the Personnel Committee in September, and from there forth have the support and approval from the Personnel Committee to bring forth these updates to you today. So I have included in the board packet the revisions to the travel policy, the whole travel policy. The revisions are tracked. They're marked in the red font in the document. So a few changes here and there, some language consistency to match the forms and other attachments that are referenced in the policy. Maybe some language was forgotten, just some modifications like that. But the biggest, largest amount of proposed updates are falling within section G as it regards to meals. So you can see there's a lot of red and underlining in that section. So this really clarifies when those GSA rates come into play, and it really hinders on the time, the length of the travel, if there's an overnight stay. And that, again, just clarifies really the current process that those 3 fiscal staff are currently practicing, but actually lays it out in writing. I should mention too, there's, at the end of the packet, there is a copy of an Excel spreadsheet. So this was also something really cool, a new tool that PHHS staff developed as well. So it's an active Excel spreadsheet that really represents and replicates the current paper form. However, it has built-in formula functionality. So as you, the employees, the fiscal staff processing the reimbursement, as they fill in the columns associated with the date, the time that they're leaving, the location, the form is built to auto-populate and auto-calculate the reimbursement for that individual for their travel based on the GSA rates and our policy as proposed. So this will also help with just the calculation and accuracy of that reimbursement calculation. And so we can see potentially employees utilizing this, the fiscal staff utilizing it. We will still have the current paper form available for people to fill out as well. And one other thing that was apparent with the travel policy is it references out-of-state travel and the need for a authorization form to be completed ahead of time for basically pre-approval. That form did not exist. We couldn't locate it. In old files, so I created an out-of-state authorization form, and that is also attached in the agenda to just round out the completeness of the policy and everything that's referenced in it.
I'd like to thank you for all your work on this, Allison, and for everybody that contributed to it. I think it's so important that our practice and our policy match, that we have the appropriate forms, and I appreciate the fact that on the new form created can auto-calculate so that we can avoid errors, human errors. We'll want to make sure we check that a couple of times, someone in person doing it and letting the form do its work, but I am just really excited about this. It's the kind of sometimes lengthy work that we need to do, but it really helps the organization overall. Any questions or comments for Allison? If not, I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the updates to the county travel policy.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Schroeder. Is there support?
I'll support.
Thank you, Commissioner White. We have a motion and support. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, we'll move on to our next item, which is approving job description and job grade updates.
All right. Continuing with our job description review process, working with DDA to update, review our job descriptions. I have two job descriptions here, both pertaining to the recycling center to present to you today. We have the recycling center assistant and the recycling center supervisor position. Both of these just include an updated job description. There really weren't many changes, so looking more at just kind of making sure it follows the standard template, has the knowledge, skills, abilities that were missing beforehand. The job grades were deemed to be accurate where they were currently sitting, so we're not looking at a change in the job grades. So the recycling center assistant would remain at its current grade of a 110, and the recycling center supervisor position would remain at a 170. One thing to note with the recycling center supervisor title is that previously it was referred to as the recycling center operator / supervisor, which personally I felt was sometimes a little bit confusing to just have the operator / supervisor in there. So to be consistent with some of our other supervisor positions, removing the operator / part and just having the recycling center supervisor. So it's just very clear that that is the supervisor for that location.
Thank you.
And timing-wise, this is great because we are going to be interviewing for filling our recycling center supervisor position. So great timing to have a revised, updated job description.
Absolutely. Any questions that commissioners have for Allison? Is there a motion to approve the job description and job grade updates?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner Storley. Is there support? Support. We have a motion and support. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right. Item C.
All right, item C, I will call upon County Attorney Hicken to assist with this. But what we will proceed forth with is having a closed session to discuss and approve the termination of an employee. And then we would discuss this and then take action after that closed session.
All right, and I'm glad you pointed out afterwards. There's a typo in the report or the cover
Correct.
sheet. So
So-
our vote would be taken afterwards
After.
when we return to this room. So this next item, as Allison mentioned, is an agenda item that requires we move into closed session as permitted by statute. Attorney Hicken, anything you would like to add at this point?
No,
All right.
I will be recording the session, and that remains a confidential recording until or unless it results in some litigation.
All right, thank you so much.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Administrator Yorkie.
thank you. Could somebody call me into that meeting?
Yes.
All right, thank you. So is there a motion to go into closed session? So moved. Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. Is there support? You will, at this time, take a vote. All in favor of closing the session? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. The meeting is now closed to the public. I'd like to welcome everyone back. We have been in closed session and are returning to take action to approve the involuntary termination of a county employee. And is there a motion?
We use the name, right?
I will make the motion to approve the termination of Registrar.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. Is there support?
I will support that.
Thank you, Commissioner White. We have a motion and support. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We'll move on at this time to item 6. Auditor Powers is with us to talk about a proposed public hearing request.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a request to hold a public hearing for considering changes to our fee schedule. This is allowed by statute. We can make that change after a public hearing. The department has made a request to have a fee changed. Our practice, we could have it at the next meeting, but our practice has been to set it a little bit in advance to give other departments the opportunity to make changes if they're thinking about it. So I would suggest we set that hearing date for November 12th, 2024 at 9 a.m.
All right, and I've had an opportunity to speak with a couple of other departments. They appreciate that time to be able to look at their fee schedules and potentially make some changes. So is there a motion to set the date of Tuesday, November 12th at 9 a.m. for our public hearing?
I'll make, okay, go ahead.
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. Is there support?
I'll support.
Thank you, Commissioner White. We have a motion and support. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. So Tuesday, November 12th at 9 a.m. Thank you, Auditor Powers. All right, at this point, we'll move on to item 7. Administrator Yorkie is joining us by phone this morning, and he has an appointment he would like to discuss.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So back on August 13th, the board approved a resolution to transition the county recorder position from elected to an appointed position. That triggered by statute a 30-day window within which residents could file what they file for a reverse referendum, which basically could contest the board's decision on this. That 30-day window passed without any petition being brought forward. And so at that point, we began the process of recruitment. And so we announced the vacancy and started collecting applications for it. We are now in the middle of that recruitment process. We do have interviews scheduled for Thursday of this week. In the meantime, we need to appoint Holly as the interim recorder so that she can continue to do the work that Dusty was doing prior to leaving at the end of last week. And she will be, as the cover sheet notes, she would be paid at an out-of-grade rate, which is our standard practice when somebody takes on an assignment that is above their current pay grade. And then once the recruitment process is complete, we would obviously hire whoever the winning candidate is, and then we would, that out-of-class appointment would be discontinued. So the request today is to approve Holly to serve as the interim recorder and registrar of titles.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Administrator Yorkie? Attorney Hicken.
Madam Chair, if I can just add, there's a second part of this request at my request, which is to ratify the written appointment that James Yorkie made last week. So because there is a 1-day gap, 1 business day gap between Dusty Nelms' retirement on Friday, her last day Friday, and this morning. In case any documents needed to be recorded yesterday, I did ask James to make a written appointment of Holly Schroeder as an interim recorder/registrar, in order to make sure that's completely solid in the event she had to record anything yesterday. I'm asking that the board ratify his appointment of Holly Schroeder last week. So 2 actions. One is to appoint as of today, and the second to ratify the appointment made last week by James Yorkie.
All right, and so for commissioners that have not done this before, we would make an appointment by motion and a second and a vote, and that would be a roll call vote, and then we would ratify that appointment by a roll call vote. Any questions? Attorney Hicken? All right. So with that, I'd like to make a motion to appoint Holly Schroeder as the interim Cook County Recorder and Registrar of Titles effective October 5th. Is there a second to that motion?
Support.
Thank you, Commissioner Storley. We have a motion and a second, and this will be a roll call vote. Storley? Sullivan? Aye.
White, aye.
Johnson, aye.
Motion carries. And now we want to ratify that appointment. And again, this will be a roll call vote. Storley?
Aye.
Sullivan? Aye.
White, aye.
Johnson, aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you, Board. Item 7B is a resolution to approve the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources acquisition of a conservation easement. The board packet contains information about this request. The parcel in question is on the southeast corner of Lake Agnes in the west end. There is a legal description of the parcel in your board packet. And then there's also an overview of the program into which this land would be put. That would basically accomplish a number of purposes related to forestry and habitat management. One key question that you are likely to wonder about is how this would impact the assessment of this property and then the tax payments made on it. I did talk with Bob Thompson about that. He believes that the impact to the taxes for the property would be fairly nominal. So this does not take it off the tax rolls by any means, but it does accomplish a number of beneficial purposes related to natural resource management.
Are there any questions for Administrator Yorkie? Commissioner Johnson?
Yes, so there is currently a house on there, on that
Yep,
parcel. So
that
that's
is correct.
excluded from this easement. And does that mean that the easement portion now becomes, the taxes are under PILT? Or does the property owner still pay regular county taxes on that?
Based on the feedback I got from Bob, I believe the latter.
So it probably just changes the classification of that parcel.
Okay, Attorney Hicken.
It may affect the property value, which would then affect the property tax.
Because it would be classified differently.
Yeah.
And I get that.
Yeah,
I just
and
wondered
used
who
differently.
pays. Is it the state or is it
Yeah.
the property owner?
Yep, still the property owner.
Other questions? If not, is there a motion to approve the resolution to enable the Minnesota DNR to acquire the conservation easement at Agnes Lake?
So move.
Thank you, Commissioner Storley. Is there support?
I'll support.
Thank you, Commissioner White. We have a motion and support. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to administrator updates.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a few things this week. We continue work to get the 3 buildings re-roofed. I believe the community center project is complete at this point. Roofing of the county museum is underway. And then we do have Mike Lafreniere lined up to put a roof on Colville Town Hall. And so those 3 projects should be complete by the time winter starts. The other thing that I wanted to mention is I've been working with Brooke Lassard, our new facilities director, to get him up to speed on things related to the capital improvement plan. Wanted to let you know that he and I have a meeting with CRBPS, which is the firm that put the capital improvement plan together, and that's scheduled for tomorrow to talk about the details of it and how we can best. I'm sorry, hang on a second. I'm sorry for that interruption. So he and I will be talking to CRBPS with the purpose of getting him up to speed on the elements of that plan and to begin the process of issuing a request for proposals related to all the other projects that are in the plan. And unfortunately, I need to step away at this time. I'll pause and see if there are any questions before I have to go.
Any questions for Administrator Yorkie?
No.
No, thank you so much.
All right, thank you, folks. Have a good day.
You too. We'll move on to Commissioner updates. Commissioner Johnson.
Let's see, I attended a ARC meeting, Arrowhead Regional Corrections meeting, and our director is retiring, so we're starting the process of advertising and looking for a new director for it. And we will really miss Wally and his work at corrections, and he was a great guy. He is a great guy, but he's just going to enjoy life now without work. I don't have anything else that I can think of right now.
All right, Commissioner White.
Well, I have just 2 things, kind of more fun things. One was last week I attended up in Grand Portage the 2024 Great Lakes Beach Association Conference. It was I got it right, I wrote it down. So, Grand Portage hosted it. There were people from Washington, D.C., Ohio, Illinois, Michigan, Wisconsin, and it was all about water quality, all about protecting the Great Lakes and what the testing is done, requirements are, and standards are in different locations. Cook County, Minnesota, Cook County, Minnesota, our local area and our greater state is very, we have more strident requirements for clean water than some of the other places. One big thing was they were calling them beaches. The only beach I'm aware of in Cook County is Paradise Beach, and everything else is shoreline. Though someone said, they found it humorous in answering the question or seeing the definition of a beach, because if you as a county are going to identify beaches for the public use, and the person said, this was a person from Grand Portage, who said, we don't tell them where the public where they're going. If enough people go, it's now a beach. That's all there is to it. So there was that. And then I attended the Zoom meeting on the Emergency Communications Board. And I had 2 pages, actually, of notes. But for that reason, to really get to know exactly what I heard, and better yet, to know what good hands we are in as a community. and across the board for communications. Rowan Watkins from the mysterious department of technology is here to actually, I prepped him yesterday, so he knows what to talk about, to tell us all really, really good things and about the Minnesota, what did you call that? Minnesota
model. It's
the
referred to.
Minnesota model, we're leading the charge, or 24 states are looking to Minnesota, thanks
Yeah.
to our guys.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
So at the meeting, a couple topics that were covered. You guys, I'll back up a little bit. The Northeast Emergency Communications Board is a joint powers agreement with the Northeast region, including a handful of cities and then the tribes that are within this area. But it's a subset or falls under the SECB, or Statewide Emergency Communications Board governance structure that's defined in 403 statute, the 403 statute, for authority over emergency communications, really driving things like interoperability, making sure everyone can talk to each other. And so we cover everything from LMR, land mobile radio, the Armor system, to Next Gen 911, to things like IPAWS, integrated public alert warning system. For us in this county, that's code red, wireless broadband or FirstNet. So all of those public safety communication things fall underneath that. And I give that context just to say what a great and valuable partnership we have there with the state partners and our regional partners who support us in that. The things that were covered that Commissioner White asked me to speak about, the first one is a tool called Rapid SOS and Rapid Deploy. So these are two map-based 911 tools that are used by our dispatch center that leverage real-time data from smartphones, IoT or Internet of Things connected devices, wearables like smartwatches, geared towards improving response time by providing our dispatchers with very accurate location information. And so what I was sharing with Commissioner White yesterday was that when you use some of these apps, whether it's Uber or you name it, you pick the app that leverages your location, you sign up and you accept the fine print, right? And that gives them the ability to sell your data and information, which usually is not great for most people. But in this case, these companies are actually leveraging that and providing it back to public safety. So they're buying that location data and then giving a much more accurate picture to our dispatchers when you dial 911. So that's the current status of Rapid Deploy and Rapid SOS. We do use both tools at our dispatch center. And increasingly they're working towards becoming a key provider in the Next Gen 911 ecosystem. So they're looking at being the applications and tools that facilitate things like video calls into Dispatch Center 911. Right now you can call 911. Not too long ago we gained the capability to text to 911. Next phase in what they call Next Gen 911, or one of them, is the ability to send video directly to the dispatcher. And that's a consideration that we'll have to look at, but it's what one of these tools, one of the things that these tools are looking to provide. The next item was encryption requirements. And so again, through this same group, there's a change management plan put in place based on a requirement that came down from the FBI and BCA to have the encryption, the level of encryption for law enforcement radio traffic enhanced. So the FBI and the BCA say the current level of encryption that's used in the state standard, as a state standard for interoperability talk groups, so that law enforcement agency A can talk to law enforcement agency B, they share keys, needs to be elevated. And to do that, the requirement is that the all law enforcement radios that are capable of taking those encryption keys, because you got to pay for the ability to do that, will have it by 2025. And just by the nature of myself, Commissioner White, Emergency Manager Mike Keyport, and Radio Communication Analyst Jay DeCou going to these meetings, that's the type of information that we had in advance, knowing that those changes were coming. And so when, I think we're at 3 or so years ago, when we replaced the Cook County Sheriff's Office radio as part of our regular replacement schedule, we knew that that change was going to be on the horizon, and we purchased radios that were capable of doing that, so that it wouldn't be something that is an added hit and an added expense that we would have to do after the fact. And so in 2025, because our radios are capable of accepting that, we will add those interop talk groups, and then for anyone else that can, our law enforcement agencies will be able to share those talk groups and encryption keys and communicate. Those are the big ones that I had. Is there anything else you wanted me to?
Yes.
Right.
Encryption chat. Oh, no, I guess that was it. Those are the big ones.
And I'll just finish.
Oh, excuse me, no. Airplanes.
Yes. So search and rescue aviation, our radio communication analyst, Jay DeCou, also a search and rescue member, has worked with the Sheriff's Office, Search and Rescue, and Sawtooth Aviation to create a technical solution and an operational process that meets state standards for the armor system, as well as FAA and FCC requirements for radio communications in a fixed-wing aircraft. And it's just about getting an armor radio up in the air when they are doing search and rescue efforts, so that the folks in the air can communicate clearly with the folks on the ground. And there's a lot of technical and operational hoops to jump through to do that. And that was something that was identified as a need after a couple searches that we've had as an area that we could improve. And Jay DeCou did the work to get that done, both the technical and operational. There's an MOU in place now with Sawtooth and Search and Rescue in the Sheriff's Office, as well as our participation plan that we hold with the state to use the armor system has been amended to meet all those requirements.
And then one other thing, Rowan, was money.
Yes, and so my intent with this one is to make this a standalone agenda item and come back and talk about it in a bit more detail, and also as we have a little bit of more information on how the cost sharing will go. But what I will say is that this same governance structure and the meetings that we go to through the SECB and the Northeast Emergency Communications Board over the last several years have been a source for us to get a lot of funding for emergency communications. They helped significantly in the initial purchase with armor radios. Our latest 911 system was helped paid for through a grant from this same group. And now we've received a letter notifying us that we stand to receive another roughly $390,000 for replacement of fire department radios, which is a huge benefit to our group. And so I'll be back with more details to talk about the how and why of that, probably at your next regularly scheduled meeting. But yes, again, this group, the Northeast Emergency Communications Board, and the larger statewide Emergency Communications Board has been really great for Cook County in a lot of ways.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, thanks so much. We appreciate you coming and sharing information with us. Anything else, Commissioner White?
No.
Commissioner Storley?
Thank you. Last week, I attended the first fall meeting for NACO. We have a new president. She's from the state of Virginia, and she is dynamite. We were there like 2.5 hours talking about her vision, and I'll go more into that when we have public health next week. But our assignment is to come up with a list of priorities for NACO in March. So we'll be working on that, and we have a deadline. We have to have it in by November 4th, so I'll be working on that in between everything else. So that's it for now.
All right, thank you so much. I appreciate that Rowan could update us a little bit on our radio situation. I know up at the airport that has been discussed repeatedly, how Sawtooth Aviation and their pilots can be of assistance during search and rescue. So really good to hear from him about everything that's in place and the memorandum of understanding as well. The airport, thinking of that, had their annual fly-in breakfast about a week and a half ago, and it was a great success. They earned more money than they ever have before on all those blueberry pancakes and syrup and whatever, and they had 42 individuals participate in short flights that left from the airport, and the fall colors were stunning, so it was a great day and great turnout for our community for that fly-in breakfast.
May I add, chocolate chip pancakes?
Yes.
We've never had the choice before. Blueberry and chocolate chips. I went for both.
All right. And we did not have a quorum at any particular time. Commissioners were spread out as they attended, so that worked out very nicely. Thanks to all of you that were there. We had, of course, for the county, our active shooter training recently, both classroom training, and then a number of people also participated in the drill. We did close the courthouse early on that day. It was really good, and what I personally appreciated was the debriefing afterwards, discussions about how to help the public when they are in our buildings if something like that were to happen. So it's employee training, but then also thinking about what do we do in those areas of the building where the public are with us at that time. Then last Friday, I participated in a 6-hour training that was part of Rural Minnesota's Community Safety Project, and it's something that Northspan put together for our community. They did a survey last spring and offered this training as a response to concerns that came up in the training. And I'll be sharing this with commissioners, but talked a little bit about how to intervene, how to de-escalate situations in the community. It could be at the grocery store. It doesn't have to be here at the county. It could be just anywhere. But we talked about de-escalation and intervention and when it's appropriate to step in and people's comfort level and such. But it was a very excellent training. There were 16 members of our community that participated, and we'll be sharing information through community leadership related to that. And then, of course, last week we celebrated Dusty Nelm's retirement. And, you know, I just have to say, after 45 years, she's just been such an important part of our community. She's a part of our history, our growth and our governance. And her journey with the county really exemplifies dedication and hard work and a deep commitment to public service. So I just want to thank her for all that she has done for the county and for our community. We have a number of meetings that are listed. It's a very busy couple of weeks coming up. We have our lodging tax comparison, which takes us through July. And then I do want to recognize our October staff anniversaries. Kyle Monson, who has been in the assessor's office for 3 years. Stacy Schmidt in PHHS, 3 years. Our administrator, James Yorkie, 4 years, and Bob Thompson, our county assessor, 8 years. So thanks to all of them for their great service. And with that, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. Is there support? Support. Thank you, Commissioner Schroeder. We have a motion and support. Anything further today? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you.